Hey, buddy, this beer's for you, Mike, and Cousin Shane. That SEC podcast loves the pirate, and the pirate loves that SEC podcast. Hail State.
Well, welcome into special. Well, special is not the right word, but just a different show here. Obviously, you know everyone knows the news by now, but Mike Leach passed away Monday at the age of 61, and we just want to do something a little different. You know, it's obviously a sad time for Mississippi State and the SEC, Mike Leach's family, and just everybody that really appreciated Mike Leach. And you know, it doesn't have to all be sad though, Shane. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You treasure these people because what they gave you and what they had. And I did it with our buddy J.C. Sherbert. I was on his show just today, kind of talking about this and something that kind of had hit me, and I wanted to just make note of. Mike Leach was the only guy that was not a head coach in the SEC that we played his clips regularly on this show. And
Yeah.
we just hoped and prayed that one day he would find his way to the SEC, and it happened. And it was a great ride, but it was cut tragically short. You know what?
Yeah, it really was, man. And fans of the show know, when he was up there in Washington, I mean, we've been fans of I have since Texas Tech. I remember countless times picking a dynasty with the Red Raiders, so that I could run that run and gun. It transformed how I thought of college football. And, and it is sad, it's we've never done anything. I was trying to think. I don't remember any SEC coaches, head coaches anyway. I mean, we've had some assistants that have passed away, but
Right.
it's tough when it's so sudden. And it went from he's in the hospital to he was rushed in the hospital to now he's not going to survive that hospital trip. That's a lot to take in, and I feel so bad for his family. I recently lost my mother-in-law, and you lose somebody close like that to your core. Right here around the holidays, man. I don't know if you're the praying type, but if you are, they could really use it right now. So, but like you said, on a lighter note, one thing that I do love is the constant content that videos I've not even seen. I thought I saw all the pirate videos, and I'm watching this. I'm like, well, how the hell did I miss this one? This is a gem. I wish we could have known him better, man. I wish we could have sat down with him and picked his brain and gotten closer and maybe have some of our own stories. But it really, you see how much he's impacted, players and coaches and media. And, when these stories are coming out, he's a piece of a lot of our lives. So
Right.
Mississippi State lost a good one, man.
Yeah, I mean, he's such a unique coach, Shane. He was featured on 60 Minutes. I mean, how many coaches could say that? He went to law school only to he got married and he took a coaching job, Shane, for $3,000 a year. He's coached football in Finland.
Yeah.
This is just the most unique guy that we've probably ever had in the SEC. And of all the tributes here, Lane Kiffin, I thought, had the very best one. Shane, I'm going to read it here. It's not very long, but this is from Lane Kiffin. I truly loved Coach Leach and every minute I shared with him. I have been able to work with several of his former players and coaches, and they all have told so many amazing stories about the impact he had on their lives. Going back to our years together in the Pac-12, I have always felt tremendous respect and admiration for Coach, his unique personality, his innovative mind, and can't imagine college football without him. I'm grateful to be part of his final win, hug him, and watch him walk off the field like the winner he is. And that's a powerful statement from what is his main rival in the SEC. You know what? But that's the impact of Coach Leach. Even his biggest rival is just devastated to see him go. You know what?
It's so wild watching that game and those two interact especially. I remember the mask him pulling the mask down, at the coach conference, and then you think, like, these guys didn't hate each other. Like, maybe, the players did, and maybe the fans did or whatever, but there was no chance in hell these guys were going to be fighting at the 50-yard line, It just wasn't in their DNA, and, so again, just more stories like this is what we admire most about coaching, and shit, man, I wish we had, you just don't know, man. You don't know. I always wondered what the Pirates football would look like in the SEC, and that's one of the things. He went on somewhere else and talked on a segment. You may post that, but that was one of the knocks on him, was that style of offense would not survive in the SEC. They're too physical. The defense would read them, and it was just, I don't know, man. We got to see it, but I felt like it got took short, man. I feel like it got took way too short, and I felt like they were on the verge of doing some really special things down there in Mississippi State.
What you're an offensive guy, and you had touched on it earlier about picking his brain as an offensive coach. As a fellow offensive play caller and play designer, what was it like to kind of match wits with him during a game?
Well, there's no one that has done it, and I've said this. This has nothing to do with today. When everybody's going to say these things. There's no one that has survived change like he did. He's ran his system, different conferences, different levels, for years and years, different players, obviously, and still worked. And everybody said in the coaching world, well, if he gets to the SEC, the defensive coordinators will figure him out. That won't work. He'll have to change. And you just continued to see him do it. And everyone else around coaching, if you look at when they haven't changed on offense, it's caught up with them and they've gotten fired. And for him to continue to do it, I mean, we knew his plays. We would know what they were running. They scored a touchdown and our defensive players were signaling the route at the end of the first half, and it still worked. That's how amazing the timing and coaching of his passing game was.
Well, let me ask you this, Shane. I really wanted to pick your brain on just maybe it was the one memory or one favorite memory you have of Coach Leach, whether it's a quote or a press conference or a time on the field, a win. And, for me, it goes back to what you just said, Shane. I mean, a lot of people question whether this was going to work in the SEC. Mm-hmm. His first game, remember, it was the COVID season. They didn't get spring.
Yeah. Fall
camps were unusual. We just didn't know what to expect. On the road against the defending national champion LSU Tigers in Death Valley, broke the SEC record for most passing yards with a guy named KJ Costello that had never played a snap in the SEC. I realized that wasn't Joe Burrow's LSU. I get it, but just, man, I didn't see that coming. I don't think anybody saw that coming. It was just like, we're here, and this works even at the game's highest level in college football.
1,350 yards on the ground last year. Now the throw down the sidelines, a beauty. And it's Tyrell Shavers' touchdown.
Kobe Jones.
Costello throws, lofts one complete. On the run is Mitchell. Mitchell down the sideline. Touchdown, Bulldogs. On first down. He's going to throw it to him, and he's wide open on the sideline if he can find his footing. Now a big play, and he's still on his feet. Calvin Hill down the sideline. He is gone. Touchdown. Costello looked left, lobs it to the corner, a touchdown. 500 yards passing, and Austin Williams for the score. It's too long to unload. Clock is going to expire on the jump ball, and it's intercepted in the end zone anyway, and Mississippi State has pulled off an upset on the road and picked off the defending national champion and 6th-ranked LSU Tigers. And KJ Costello, his debut in the SEC, nothing short of brilliant. 623 yards and 5 touchdowns. And in a game that seesawed back and forth 9 times, the Pirate and the air raid offense of Mississippi State has come to the SEC.
I would love to say mine is really football related, but I'd be lying. I think the one that got me the most with the Pirate was when, and it made me think. There on after, every time I see a team or two teams going against each other, it's still that little thing pops in my mind as if these two mascots met in a dark alley, which one's going to win? You know, I never thought about that. And then when he went on that ramble with the Pac-10 mascots, I'll never not remember that. And hell, we've even done power rankings on our podcast because I think about it.
Well, first of all, what kind of mythical powers does a Sun Devil have? We got to consider that. I'm going to say the Wildcat's out. The Trojan, does he have a horse or is he on foot? Does he have a bow and arrow or just his sword? The Bruin, definitely formidable. Another bear up there at Cal. The tree, I imagine that tree's going to get chopped down. Unless we're going to go with a bird and somebody might get pecked or something. I don't know. And then the duck might lose interest and just fly away and get out of there, which may be good advice under the circumstances. The husky, no chance. The beaver, well, we'll see how long that beaver can hold his breath. The ute, again, we're back to, is he on horseback? Does he have a bow and arrow? Did he trade for a rifle? I mean, you know, because if that ute's got a rifle, there's some definite problems. And then, and you know, you'd have to get one of those Harry Potter activists to read up on how you kill a sun devil, because there's a lot of outside stuff there. Just as far as a beast alone, a buffalo's going to be pretty hard to tangle with. I mean, a buffalo's utterly outstanding. Well, but Butch is going to have to be clear-minded and crafty. I mean, Butch will find a way. There's no question. The Coug will find a way. Clear-minded and crafty, a combination of stay out of harm's way and attack when you get your chances or your openings.
So I think that was probably one of my favorites. It's because you know Texas Tech, their story. There was a reason he left down there. But it was 3 years before he got another job. So it's kind of like he got lost there for a minute. And then you get a little bit of that story and you're like, oh, this is why I love that guy. So I don't know. I've always been a fan of him. But when I think of Mike Leach, I will never not think of mascots fighting to the death.
And another thing I wanted to say, Shannon, I mean, just all Twitter has been, from at least on my timeline today, is just stories of Mike Leach, tributes to Mike Leach, and there are so many bizarre stories, but everyone was humorous.
Yeah.
And I think that was the lasting legacy, and we have barely even scratched the surface, Shane, on the guy that his footprint or fingerprints is all over the game of football, to the NFL, to high school. I mean, this is a guy that coached at Texas Tech, Washington State, Mississippi State, and with all due respect to those three schools, you can make the case, those are three of the toughest jobs in their respective conferences, yet he went to a bowl game 19 of his 21 seasons. He won 8 or more games in 13 of 19 last seasons. He's got more wins over ranked opponents as an unranked team than anybody in AP poll history, and damn near half the SEC, Shane, is now running some version of his offense, or at least of offense that was inspired initially by his air raid system. And I think that that should be recognized on day like this. You know what?
Yeah, and it may not be championship rings, but like you said, it has produced championship rings through other coaches. I think one of the things too with the Pirate is, he wasn't the cookie cutter mold. I think a lot of times it's like you just talk Lane Kiffin. Well, Lane Kiffin used to be a football player, and then all of a sudden he got a clipboard and decided to start coaching. That's how most of these guys did it. They did it at some success in college football. I mean, hell, even Nick Saban, You know, little Nick Saban played college football. You know what I'm saying? So he didn't fit that mold. But you're starting to see other coaches get the same chance as him, and more of the analytic side, which is kind of crazy. And I can't help but think that's inspired a little bit by Coach Leach. You know,
Right. And man, again, one of my favorite stories that I heard today after news of his passing, Shane, Bruce Feldman, who co-wrote his autobiography with Coach Leach. It's called Swing Your Sword. I got it in my hands right here. He says, there's a famous scene from the show Friday Night Lights,
I saw that.
one of the most popular shows out there.
Yeah.
Coach Leach is in it. Well, let's play the clip here. But Coach Leach, and it's a great message that he's got on the show, but he filmed this literally the day before Texas Tech played Texas. That's arguably their biggest game of the season. And it's just, that's just how bizarre he was. But he was a genius, but he was bizarre because Nick Saban, I doubt he does a $1 million commercial, 6 weeks before the season starts. The mad genius out here filming commercials the day before the biggest game of the year. He's just such a special guy. You know what?
And the audio doesn't do it justice. You need to check that video, him swinging that sword, I thought that was great. And it's funny you said this before a giant game against Texas. That was one of the things I loved most about Leach, because I have notifications on two coaches, Lane Kiffin and Coach Leach, ironically, the two coaches in Mississippi. And because you just never know what you're going to get. And it's so funny because then you'll see this stuff from Lane where it's Flipmas and, look at all these awards this guy won, and it's all football related, And then over here, you've got all these memes like from the Ark or something, It's like, it has nothing to do with college football. But it's like sent out at 3 a.m, and you're like, what the hell is he doing up so late? Shouldn't he be game prepping? No, he's on Facebook looking at memes. So that's the unique side of Leach. He just never turns off, man.
And I think that's kind of what endeared him to so many people, Shane, because he was just like us. We've all been there. We've all, like you said, 3 a.m., can't sleep. And time again, I'm hearing, he texts people at that hour with just advice or recommendations. And, man, just a special guy that really cared about people he interacted with. And that's something you got from his players as well. He really cared about his players. Even, some of these guys jumping into the portal, they're heartbroken.
Yeah.
That this happened to Coach Leach, which I think says a lot about the coach and his relationship with his players. And you see stories where people he didn't even know, Shane, would reach out and say, hey, can I shadow you for a day or two to just kind of see your operation? And he would come down there and he'd have them for a week. Or he'd invite reporters down to his house at Key West. And I saw another reporter say, I was swinging through town. I thought I'd hit him up, go out to dinner. Next thing I know, 7 hours later, he's giving a tour of his house. You know what I mean? Like, that's just who this guy was.
Yeah. And that's why people loved him. And that's why people will always love him, because of this. And I just hope we cherish those memories. And, if this has taught us anything, especially here at the holidays, if you're thinking about stopping by your mamaws or your papaws, this would be a good time to do it, because you're not promised tomorrow. And I think there's plenty of people that's been in the Pirate's life that would love to have one more dinner with him, or or wherever he wants to go, man. If he wants to show the house off one more time, I'd go through that line 10 times.
All right, we're going to try to close on a happy note. Obviously, a sad time here. We're going to play, our favorite clips of Mike Leach. That's how we're going to end this thing. But I just want to recommend anybody that hasn't already. Like I said, I've got this book, Swing Your Sword. It really is outstanding, and I read football books. That's about all I can muster to have the attention to read. And I just want to read. This is literally how this book opens. And this is classic Mike Leach. Get you into the head of Mike Leach. There's a golden retriever, Shane, named Pepe. And Pepe keeps peeing on Mike Leach's toys, on his tent, his sleeping bag, all this stuff. And this is when he's a little kid. He said he's crushed. Him and his mom cleaned everything out. And He said, I did what most kids would have done at that age. I broke down. I bawled. My mom placed her arm around me. She explained, it's not Pepe's fault. Pepe can't help it. He's just a dog. That's what dogs do. They pee to mark their territory. They pee so other dogs will know that this is their home. Pepe doesn't know your yard from anyone else's. He just thinks that the whole area is his home. Well, I was listening to her, but I was not too sure if this can't help it stuff. To me, an awful lot of this territory marking is on temporary things. My glove, my sleeping bag, my toys. I'm not so sure this wasn't malicious. She helped me clean everything, and eventually we got the tent back in order. I realized when I needed to go back into my house and get my toy gun, but I was afraid to leave the tent even for a minute. I figured if I ran inside and rushed back out, I'd be back before Pepe could mess with my stuff. I looked around to make sure the coast was clear. Then I ran to the house, hurried to get my toy gun, and came back out. This time, Pepe had peed inside the tent. I actually had pulled my sleeping bag out into the yard and peed all over it too. I was completely enraged, broken down, and desperate. I hit rock bottom. Perhaps because I was out of options, my mind began to clear. I realized Pepe was attacking me close to home, where I was most vulnerable. Pepe's strengths were his speed and athleticism. I was neither fast nor athletic. All my weaknesses were being exploited. I kept thinking about what my mom had just said. The thing that stuck out in my mind was mark your territory. I had cried like most kids do, and that didn't do any good. I thought of ways to kill Pepe. Perhaps I could run him over in a car. Nah, that won't work because I can't drive and my parents would never go for it. I became calm and had another idea. I went to the refrigerator and found some meat. I went back outside, looked for Pepe. Here, Pepe. Good dog, Pepe. I called him in as calm and friendly voice as I could. Come here, Pepe. And sure enough, eventually he came towards my hand and began eating the meat. Then I grabbed Pepe's collar with my other hand, dragged him over to a vacant lot next to where no one could see me. Holding Pepe's collar with one hand, I unzipped my pants in the other hand. Still running through my head was all this business of marking your territory. I proceeded to pee all over his head and face. I aimed for his eyeballs, his nostrils, and mouth. Any orifice I could find, I wanted to soak. I drenched his whole face. Pepe struggled until he broke free and ran off. He never messed with me or my stuff again. And that's, even at a young age, Mike Leach was different. And hey, like he said, his unique ideas and strategies, they worked. You know what?
Before the pirate, he was a dog whisperer. Oh, dude.
One sports writer called you a football madman directing a sideshow.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, I don't have any disagreement with it, really. I want all the positions that touch it. There's nothing balanced about 50% run, 50% pass, because that's 50% stupid.
Favorite weather pattern happens to be when it rains mud. Dust comes through, rain on top of it, it rains mud. This weather report here, what do I know? I'm a football coach. I suggest you go out and do what I do. Get out of bed, go outside, then you know.
That's how you hate candy corn. What's your favorite Halloween
candy corn? I mean, I completely hate candy corn. When I was a kid, well, gummy bears, let's see. Gummy bears for sure.
Sour or regular?
The Haribo. It's got to be the Haribo ones. And then the other thing I like is when they used to have the sprees in a box. Outstanding. You have to go to the dollar store to find it, but I do. And then the latest, you know, there's still candy innovation, although a while back I found that Europe had better candy than we did overall because they have gummy everything. And then, you know, they have those Nerds clusters, which is new.
The gummy.
Yeah, which is good. The Nerds clusters is good. And then if you go chocolate, probably Almond Joy.
Love it. Hopefully you'll get some of that next week.
Yeah, we'll see.
He's known as a football intellectual, but his eyes really light up
when he talks about the simple, brutal collision of the offensive and defensive lines.
I mean, the reason they have footballs is because of the big guys. And you know, when O-line, D-line go one-on-one and, you know, just get incredibly violent, I mean, that's what it's all about. I mean, you get to see those guys just go to war, you know, and it's got all the things that football entails. There's shouting, there's blood, there's boogers, there's a whole thing. I mean, and there's spitting, there's fighting, there's ripped jerseys, there's somebody grabbing somebody's throat. I mean, it's why you have football.
Mike, I'm just wondering where you or anybody else got an actual bandwagon for that video this morning.
Well, okay, your answer is as satisfactory as mine is. They found it. And hey, you looking for a bandwagon? Hop on. When we were at Iowa Wesleyan College, some guy brought in this air raid siren. What? Here, get an air raid siren on your phone there. Let's do this some justice. Okay, here we go.
Coach Leach, from the very first day that I met you, we talked about this very moment right here and how special that it is. And you know how to make it really stressful to get
Yeah, I had a little help with that.
You are.
Look at that.
We often...
They got a camera right there so you can...
I know you have strong thoughts on weddings. I'm in the middle of planning one right now. Do you have any advice for me?
Who are you marrying?
His name is Trevor.
Go elope. Trust me on that. Go elope. Present a game ball. This guy works his ass off every day. Inspires everybody around here. Wade Sim.
You know, he could talk about space. He could talk about history. He could talk about anything. At some point, you start to also celebrate the life. And I think a lot of people, you know, they'll be mourning and then they'll be celebrating and thinking about the different stories that we all have shared over the time that we've been able to spend with Mike.